Welcome to Front Porch Politics. I'm Darren Hamilton. So Texas is heading into a big, dramatic U.S. Senate runoff between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton. And the media is treating this like it's a political Super Bowl. But I gotta tell you, as a Libertarian, a Marine, and a guy who reads systems the way other people read vibes, this isn't the Super Bowl. It's like two managers at the same restaurant fist fighting in the kitchen while the customers are being told, please wait outside. We'll let you know who's in charge of your meal later. Now, if this feels familiar, it should. We are watching a similar version of the same circus up here in Denton County. Same rules, same structure, same weird outcome. Nobody wins outright, so we run it back like it's a playoff game that nobody asked for. Here, Cornyn comes in first by about 1.2%, which in normal human terms means he didn't win. But in Texas election law terms means, congratulations, you've unlocked the bonus democracy round. So now we get a one-on-one showdown on May 26th. Cornyn's the establishment guy, 4 terms in the Senate. That's almost a quarter century. By that point, you're not a public servant anymore, you're part of the furniture. Paxton's running as the outsider, which is impressive for a guy who's been in statewide office for over a decade. It's like your boss introducing himself as new here after 10 years. And hovering over all of this is Donald Trump, who spent weeks teasing an endorsement and then landing on, I like both candidates very much. That's not an endorsement. That's what you say when 2 of your friends are fighting and you don't want to get dragged into it. But here's where it stops being funny and starts being structurally broken. Because this runoff, it's not actually about Texas. It's about the Texas GOP deciding which radicalized version of itself moves forward. And they're doing it through a closed primary system, which means that if you're an independent, a libertarian, or just someone who doesn't pledge loyalty to the GOP, you don't get to vote. Not your vote doesn't matter, you're not allowed to participate. And here's the kicker. That group that can't participate, that's a majority of Texans. So before the general election even starts, the system has already filtered out most of the electorate. Then we pile on the runoff system. Now, on paper, that sounds great. We want a majority winner. But in reality, turnout drops hard. So who shows up? Only the most motivated, the most partisan, the most ideologically locked-in voters, which means instead of broadening representation, you're narrowing it to the political equivalent of a die-hard Nickelback fan club. And while all that's happening, donors and media have already shaped the battlefield, deciding who gets resources, whose message gets amplified, and which narratives dominate. So by the time Texans are even paying attention, the real decisions have already been made. So yeah, this is a big, expensive, high-profile race, but let's call it what it really is. This runoff isn't about who represents Texas. It's about which rabid faction of one party wins control of that party. Democrats have already decided their candidate. Libertarians, yeah, we're still here. We'll finalize ours soon. But clue into this little factoid. The general election is the only election where all Texans actually get to vote. Everything before that, that's just the parties arguing over who gets to be on stage. And look, I'm not saying don't pay attention. I'm saying understand what you're watching and what you're paying attention to. Because if millions of Texans are locked out of the process that decides their options, that's not a competitive system. That's a pre-screening process with a patriotic soundtrack.